Hey, greetings and welcome back once again. It is I'm on in the daytime. I got something in the cooking, so I said let me come on here real quick and chop it up real quick. I pray everybody's doing well. Please excuse the typo. I'm gonna fix it after this video. After I press live, I was like, last night I talked about this Lizzo conversation, and welcome to those who've just joined us. If you're new to the channel, big up yourself. Like, subscribe, and all of that beautiful stuff. So this is why I don't touch every topic, because my mind wants to kind of like get a grasp of the topic, and so long after I've like touched a news story, I'll be still thinking about it, right? And so I wanted to talk about hyper sexuality today, based on the conversation I had yesterday, and looking at things through Soulonimics. I haven't showed. Hey, what's going on? I haven't showed this in a while. Is the Soulonimics book. It's a short workbook that I did apparently a while ago, a good couple of years. I forgot, once I keep moving, I keep moving, y'all. I actually did it before 2015 in another form, but anyway. So when I'm looking at this young woman, because she's younger than I am, you know what I mean? When I'm like, she's 31, you just got into your 30s and you out here doing a whole lot of stuff that you could possibly, and not just her, but they say, I'm living my best life. I'm living my truth. But when you strip all that away and you take away all of the talent and you take away all of the accolades and you look at the activity of the child, I know this has become normalized in society, where even now we see young children, babies in diapers, twerking. Now let's get some context. Yes, when I do my watching of certain Nigerian films or West African films, you do see a level of what some will classify as twerking, but it's not always in the way in which it presents itself in this. So you may see people that are in uniform. You may see women at the village, and they're this is in the movies, right? In the African Nigerian movies. And then you may see them dancing in a suggestive manner. So when you look at twerking, at the very core of what it is, or dancing in a lewd manner, like Jamaicans dance in lewd manner, a lot of Caribbean people, soca, calypso, dancing you're suggesting sexuality. Right? You're just suggesting that you are sexually available for the attention of those who may be around and what it's bringing. So it brings you joy. A lot of people say, I dance like this because it brings me joy. It brings me pleasure. Hey, I stop playing games today. It brings, the person says it brings you pleasure. That's very interesting, because I actually have to write down my little notes here. When we talk about what I'm going to say, it has to do with energy centers, and in some places, in some thought systems, they call it chakras. It has to do with how we understand how we process what we see and the effects it has on our body. So trauma, experiences, things that we have seen or heard can affect our energy centers. Okay? I know we probably heard this before in other places. If not, pull up a seat. You know what I'm saying? Eat your lunch to this. So when you talk about human sexuality, it deals with the sacral energy center, where your reproduction organs are housed. So this is why when you're twerking, you're moving, you're gyrating, and you're moving your behind, and you're moving your pelvis, and you're indicating that you are viable sexually. But why does someone need to be viable sexually? And a very core of who we are, there's a need to reproduce. It's built within us. Okay, so in some systems, like in the animal kingdom, you may have a monkey who shows his behind or lets off pheromones to show the people or the other potential mates that the person is ready to mate. You see it in the lion kingdom. You see it you see it all throughout nature. It comes in different forms. Okay. So it's basically showing the people or the possible mates and that you are ready. You are firm and you are ready and you are right. Okay. When there's too much, when this energy center, this need to reproduce, and the weird thing is, I'm gonna leave the weird thing for, but when it's open, it's like you turn the water on full force, the water may still trickle out because down the line there's a kink somewhere in the hose. But if there's no kink in the hose and the pressure is on too much, the water gushes out the hose. Now, if you're trying to do something concentrated, like water your seedlings or water your whatever, it's too much energy or too much force coming out of that hose for the job that you're trying to accomplish, if you can understand what I'm saying. So the hypersexuality in humans is when that human during development was exposed to or traumatized in the area of their sexuality, which has to do with their emotions and their passions and their creativity. Because understand, our creative energy is the same energy that we then turn and use to procreate. It's the same energy, right? If your two systems or your two energy points that keep you in your lower self, which is that which has to do with our survival, okay, which is your root system, whether or not you feel stable where you are, whether or not you feel at home where you are, certain things, certain characteristics of people we can take to determine whether or not they're off. It's like going to the chiropractor. You go to the chiropractor, they stand you up, they go down your vertebrae, they feel around, and because they know what it's supposed to look like when it's lined up, they can tell you down to which vertebrae is off. This one is off, and this is why you may be having this problems. A lot of people sleep on chiropractors, but when your spine or your alignment is off, it can affect your thyroid. If it's up here in your neck, it can affect your digestion. It can affect your lower back, right? Usually people go to chiropractors when they meet in an accident or something happens, but no, chiropractors are important because there are different things that can cause these levels of physical trauma, right? I'm just using the chiropractor because it lines up. There are also different things or occurrences that can happen that causes this energetic trauma. If somebody was repressed, there's two things. Your hypersexuality can mean it's wide open, and hypo, or the closing, it can mean it's really very tight and there's nothing that's going to be, there's no energy able to pass through because the person is shutting off. You know what I'm saying? Because of whatever. So the person can open up too wide or the person can shut off. And I know this has some kind of implication. Keep your mind at the gutter, y'all. I'm talking about energy here, right? And in this society, we normalize it. And we say, oh, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm living my truth. I'm living my best life now. This, that, and the third. And I say because it's all malarkey. Anybody who's talking like that has not really... We're normalizing dysfunction and not doing the work that it needs to understand that the energy system has to flow up and then we get download from the creator, right? If anywhere along the line is blocked up, the energy is not going to get to the next spot that it needs to sufficiently so that it can energize that place. So I'll take the young lady, for example, because I've been looking at it, right? Welcome to those who just joined us. If you have somebody who's hypersexualized, you're usually going to see it affecting the root system or your root chakra, right? You're going to see it affecting there. You're also going to see it affecting their will, which has to do with your solar plexus, your will, your drive. If somebody's over, in this world, we say, oh, we're grinding, we're such and such and such, and you're over ambitious or overly X, Y, and Z. What happens there is that along the line, something else is compromised. Maybe you have a heart that's closed off, or maybe your voice is too robust and abundant and you don't measure your words and you don't value the things that you're saying. So that means that you don't have depth of vision because you compromise that depth of vision or the connection with the divine. You compromise that because you're stuck in your... So what does it benefit the media to project images to us that's going to allow us to be stuck in our lower self? Let me just stop here for those of us who subscribe to biblical teachings and be like, Amuna, you're saying some weird stuff and I don't understand. Okay. When Jacob was at the well, no, he wasn't at the well. When he was having issues with Laban, and he went and he gave him a proposal. He was like, look, Speckler spotted. He was a keeper of the sheep. All things Speckler spotted would be mine. He put before the sheep when they went to go and mate. I believe it was a poplar rod. He put something in their vision, in their eyesight, before they went to go mate. And if you look up that practice or people doing that experiment to see if it will affect what you produce, it absolutely will affect what is produced, what you take into your eyes, your ears, your mind. This is why we're talking about epigenetics. This is why we're talking about it didn't start with you. I didn't forget. We're still going through it. Why? Because what you experience is ultimately going to affect what you produce. So if you want to have people who are a slave, like Britney Spears, to their emotions, and a slave to their sexuality, and a slave to the energy, then what do? You keep feeding it to them. You feed it to them younger and younger. You know what I'm saying? So that they don't realize, they begin to live with this feeling and emotion for so long that they think it's normal. How are you guys doing today? And so what's happening is that we're normalizing dysfunction by saying, I'm living my truth. I'm living my best life. Nobody can't tell me what to do. Blah, 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 blah. And not understanding that, like I showed in the video yesterday, is that those who are allowing you to do it have an agenda. You cannot say that you are living your truth. Well, you can say you're living your truth, but those who are giving you the one up, who are telling you, yeah, man, go ahead, yo, I like the way you do that. They're in their mind, as long as you, for instance, you go out with somebody and you're trying to make moves, and they know you have a proclivity towards alcohol or towards the strip bar, and they want to overtake you in business, or they want to overtake you in the political arena. What are they going to do? They're going to feed you. They're going to be there like, yeah, man, come, let's go to the bar. You want another drink? They're going to get you in a compromised situation so that they can control the narrative, so that they can empower themselves as you disempower yourself. Back to a biblical narrative. Hey, I want you to go curse these people. There's all principles. People be like, oh, it's a white man's book, which will come back another talk. If you miss principles, if I can share Aesop's fables and give you principles from Aesop's fables, where the people clearly knew that Aesop's fables was fables, but they're giving you principles, then a wise person is going to learn from it. You know what I mean? So when in the Torah, when they're looking and they're saying, hey, I need you to go curse these people, he says, hey, we can't curse who the Most High bless, but guess what we can do? We can get them to sin. We could get them to succumb to their lower nature. We can excite an appetite within them that they will always be dominated. Make no mistake, this energy, this desire is a strong desire. If it is hyper activated, it will take a lot for somebody to kind of put it back in the box. It's like when the people talk about this Kundalini energy, which, listen, y'all do your homework and your research. Some of the things are basically like studying the elements of the earth, and other things are opening Pandora's box. And if you even see some of the people who in the Indian spaces who are opening up their Kundalini energy and its serpentine, you should see the back end of that. A lot of times people don't come and tell you the back end. They show you the glitz and the glamour. They show you the Hollywood, which, by the way, Hollywood is an actual stick that oftentimes from the holly tree that was used to do magic. So no wonder it's called Hollywood. So it's all props, it's all lights, it's all cameras, it's all smoke and mirrors. And then after that, you really don't get to see it until the person has come to an end. You see what I'm saying? And so it is a cycle. Who's trying to convince you has to convince you that this is cool. You know what I mean? They're not going to tell, you know, who's the first person that introduces homeboy to smoking crack? At first it was cool. Now nobody don't got no teeth. You know what I'm saying? Or introduce your peoples to smoking meth. At first it was cool. Oh, that was really cool. And then in the end, what happened? You're an addict. You're selling everything and you're pawning everything and you're stuck in this space, chasing a high that you will never accomplish or never regain again. And the chemicals and the hormones that's released, that's released when people are hypersexual, because it's like chasing a high, they have to keep doing it and have to keep doing more of it to try to regain that high, but they never really get it back. Kalila says, Shalom says, the lower nature topic is most definitely needed. Hold on. There's, ooh, how many times I try to read this thing? There's insight I need to search your channel for counsel marriages. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on the channel. There's a lot of stuff on the other channel where we did a lot of work. The other channel is called Under the Palm, Hebrew Women Speak. So if you want, that one is more of me. I used to do a lot of hosting. So you'll hear a lot of community discussions on that channel. You'll hear about everything from marriage, relationships, everything. So all of those videos are Palm, Hebrew Women Speak. So if you go over there, you'll have a field day. You'll be listening for a long time because it's a lot of videos. But what I was gonna say, this is what we're being controlled by. This was the tactics that was used. The Moabites came in, they sent the women in, they seduced the men. If you look at Baal Peor, it's the Lord of the Opening. It suggests some sexual immorality was happening. This is in the Bible. And it's telling you, if you want to catch them, if you want to suppress them, so if you want to subdue them, then get them to fall in this area. Your lower nature, which has to do with your survival. What was Israel, the children of Israel, crying about? They were crying about food. They were crying about water. They were crying about going back to where food and water was predictable. And then the men fell behind because Baal Peor had to do with the Lord of the Opening and sexual immorality. Could you name the name of the channel? The name of the channel is, I'll write it in. Let me see if I can write it in. I'm coming. Oopsie. I'm waiting for my thing to do here. I'm going to write the name of the channel. Like, and I'm going to, come on now, thing now. The name of the channel is UNDER, The Palm, PALM. And if you put Under the Palm, Hebrew Women Speak, then you will see it come up, and then you'll see a whole lot of biblically based discussions and videos that have to do with understanding why and how one is easily controlled. It's like when they started to try to sell cigarettes. This is, you can look this up. This is verifiable facts, as they like to say. Hey, hi, welcome to the discussion, Chloe. There was and I'm still not done going through that book because there's so much I want to do. But they say he was the father or grandfather of PR named Edward Bernays, and he was back in the early 1900s this master at selling ideas and concepts to people. One of the ways they got women to start smoking regularly is they sexualized it to a certain degree to make it like it was cool. You know what I'm saying? It's the same way I was looking at something weird of how they began to get women to shave their armpits and why women began to shave their armpits. And you have somebody who was trying to sell a product, and they sit down in their rooms or they sit down around their tables and say, how can we sway the minds of the people so that they will be inclined to get this product, to get what it is that we want or what it is that we need, which is sales, bottom line. Okay. And so they got people to shave their armpits when they never used to, women to shave their armpits and shave their legs, because during the flapper time, they started wearing cutoff dresses and, shorter dresses. So I need you to shave their legs. And how are we going to sell more cigarettes? Because at first only men were selling cigarettes. So if we make it cool and we make you look like you're doing cool stuff, or if we sexualize smoking, then women will be more inclined to do it. And you see that repeated time and time again for whatever it is they want, the shiny object that they want want you to come closer to. So the basic reason is that it converts into sales. There was a I have to go back and look for it. There was a report from like the 60s or the 50s where a news reporter was making a plea to the American populace, because I guess at that time there was a major printing of like the nudie magazines that were coming out. I don't know if it was Playboy. I don't know if Playboy, one of those magazines were coming out. This pornographic literature, which is another way of conveying it's a medium. Books are a medium. This YouTube is a medium. Social media is a medium. And so art is a medium. Song is a medium. And so it's a way in which to convey a thought, right? And so they were trying to convince the people. I mean, the guy was making a plea to say, if you let this company, who was making millions of dollars at the time, continue to print this and distribute it, it's going to pervert the generation. I have to go back and find that, because I was like, wow. And so said, so done. So you have mommy videoing her little child like, ooh, and the little child is twerking, and the people are like, oh, that's so cute. That's not cute. That's not cute. It's awakening something within that child before the time. It's allowing your child to be exposed to because the commercial is sold through sexuality. An ice cream commercial is using sexuality. Why? Because passion and desire live in your sacral chakra. And that's the same thing. Passion, desire, procreation, emotions, all live in this space. So if I can tap into that, this is why people go crazy for artists or go crazy for musicians, is because they make you feel something. And if somebody can make you feel something, and it may be in a traumatic space that they can make you feel, then they can control you. And because we are not healed and we are walking around broken in different spaces, some people, for instance, let me get back to the hypersexuality and then I'm gonna wrap it up. Your sexuality, or the reproduction, the process within the way in which it was created, is not something to shame someone for at the appropriate time, in the appropriate context. What is being pushed is that one is supposed to distort the function of your genitalia. They're supposed to distort what it's supposed to come forth from it and reduce it to solely pleasure. And therefore, the individual or the human gets to determine what is right and what is wrong and what is their truth. And this is a secret in most cases, but in some cases, no, because now they're doing it for everybody to see. But it's something that becomes this spiritually transmitted disease, or STD is something I want to talk about also. It becomes this STD. In the same way, doing things that are not supposed to be done sexually opens up the door for STDs. Because let's understand what STDs are, right? If it opens, and how is it transmitted as sexually transmitted diseases? If someone is going around and tapping into the energy and the bodily fluids of multiple people, they're going to bring that onto themselves, and it makes a new thing. And next thing you know, you have syphilis, or you have gonorrhea, or you have chlamydia, or you have trichomosis, or you have HIV, or you have, you begin to have this that is meant for excrement. Understand that you're going to open up the body for diseases. This is only common sense, right? But because it feels good, because the people are hypersexualized, because there's no government in this area, then we the people are being forced to accept it as norm. It's not normal. Even in the animal kingdom, people talk about the lions all the time. There's called mating season, because all the other times they're in the root chakra, which is they're worried about survival. What are they going to eat? Where going to eat? Whether or not they had the babies from last year? How are they going to take care of them? So all the time they're worried about survival. And then there comes a time where they're like, boom, we have to replicate. And so they go into, okay, now it's time. I talked about this before, where we're being taught, where even the doctors, I've been pregnant, I have children, the doctors are ill-advising you of things that it keeps us, let me just say, in our lower estate. Okay? It keeps us in our lower estate. So if you have an addiction to pornography, if you have an addiction, if your sexuality or your sexual urges take over you, then that means that that's a clue that you have a trauma in this area. If you're totally closed off and you cannot enter into intimate space with your mate, husband, if you're a woman, wife, if you're a man, I'm talking about functionality. Because people like to get upset and say, oh, you're talking about sin, are you hating? Listen, good and evil has to do with function and dysfunction. Point blank, period. Function and dysfunction. We're making it about emotion. That goes to show you that the social chakra system of the sacral is enlarged. It is overactive, because what has become a means of function and reproduction now solely lies in this space of emotion. It's about spiritual STDs, emotional STDs, and physical STDs. I jumped over there and I forgot what I was saying. Oh, I had to backtrack a little bit. Oh, so like I was saying, if this is an area that you suffer in, whether you have no interest, that means you are not interested in reproducing or connecting so that you could reproduce, or if you're always interested in inserting, this is for inserting yourself in places, but you're not concerned at all of what comes out, then that is dysfunction. That's dysfunction. It's dysfunctional. Hopefully I'm making it plain, right? And this is why we will be ever trapped in this space, because the men, instead of worrying about building and then protecting, because it's not only just building, you have to protect what you build and you have to provide for what you build. And so if the men are worrying about, oh, look at that behind. When you look at a woman's behind, back to this conversation, the behind usually innately, and men, correct me if I'm bugging up, innately, what the people are looking for is, how is this person going to protect? How is this person going to nourish? How is this person? Because remember, we're talking about, it didn't start with us. So these things of tall, dark, and handsome, survival is also in us. Not only did they pass down emotional trauma, they passed down the best way for us to survive. So the big strapping buck, the dude with the big, be able to provide for his family, in theory. Right? The woman with the broad hips and the big breasts is going to be able to nourish the offspring, because there was a time where it was very real for people to die from malnourishment, from young children not to make it after they were born. 1 year, few months, the child was feeble and the child passed away. That's very real and present. Or the man wasn't able to provide because he wasn't able to go out there because he didn't have the strength. So I don't want a weakling. I want somebody. This is all within. It didn't start with us. So depending on your society, this big behind and breast means that, hey, you're fertile. You know what I'm saying? So even, and the issue is, like right now, there's land all behind me, but this is not mine. And what a lot of people are doing are walking around and looking at people and saying, oh yeah, that's nice, that's nice, that's nice. And then you want to squat on the land, or you want to sow seeds on the land and then leave the land. I was just having a good time. It's what they say, like, whoa, you were just having a good time? You know what's a good show that I watch to understand this principle? You got to watch it at the back end, because like I said, it's all smoke and mirrors in the beginning. Watch Paternity Court. Not Jerry Springer, because he's just ratchet. 99.9% of these people are saying is that after that subsided and reality sets in, you wonder, but Judge, I don't know how that happened. Or I don't know why I did that, because it cuts off the clarity in the mind for a moment. And a lot of men say they wasn't thinking, because you weren't thinking, because you weren't in control of space. And once people regain control of this space, both men and women, then we can begin to regain control of our lives and elevate beyond the lower nature. Is Amuna trying to suck all your fun out your life? No. For instance, on my drive in, I was listening to a divorce court, which is another thing to look at when you are always looking to understand why systems break down and why relationships break down. You listen, I'm just sourcing information. And the woman is saying to the judge, he's hypersexualized, essentially. And that when they first got together, they married, I think, after 30 days of knowing each other. The judge had to ask the question, what in that 30 days made you think that this person was for you? And I could say easily, it's trauma. You become attached. You gravitate towards people quickly. And that's an indication that something else is going on. But long story short, the woman says, the man appears 3 times a day. Mister, if you have 3 times a day of you releasing your life force, because that's what men actually are doing, is releasing their life force, your creative life force that you were given to use responsibly, just like they say drive responsibly, and you're expending yourself, then what time or energy do you have for anything else? They say that a man who releases a lot of his life force depletes the stores of, it's not magnesium. I think it's magnesium. I have to go back and double check. I think it's magnesium. Because the fluid that he's releasing is zinc. I think it's zinc and magnesium. They always trying to get the men to get zinc and magnesium multivitamins. The fluids that he's releasing has essential elements in them. It has things in them that are needed to go towards building of what we're going to be building in the womb, which is a child of the life. So that's like somebody who is a builder. They're not particularly looking to build any structure, but they're just like throwing bricks. Oh yeah, here's a little cement. It feels good. I like it. Here's some bricks. You know what I'm saying? Oh, here's a few shingles. It's like, in the real world, we're like, what are you doing? What did you build? Nothing. It's just scattered all over the place. I didn't build anything. And so the young men need to understand that you have to control your member. Because when you control your member, that woman cannot come in and begin to tempt you in a way that's going to cause you to come off your square and do madness. Because the women know that this space is a weakness, then they know, show your behind, show your breast, flash the smile so that I can manipulate you. I'm not one, I don't believe in manipulation. People say it's the womanly wiles, but to a certain degree, for me, it's feeding that dysfunction to a certain degree. Yes, you're supposed to be appealing. The woman has a softness and a beautifulness. But if she's intentionally like, yeah, I'm about to go, and because I know these niggas, if she's doing this, then she's going out in the wrong spirit. And it's just feeding that cycle. Okay? It's feeding the cycle. Over and over. Amani, welcome to the discussion. Thank you so much. I really and truly needed that. You're welcome, sis. What's going on? Yeah, because I'm sitting in front of this open land right here, and I'm just imagining it in my head, like, yo, people be like, yo, what are you doing? Dude, you tripping. Why are you doing this? But because it feels good. There's another study, and don't mind me, there's just mad studies like in my dome. But there was a study I read that had to deal with the physiology of sex. I think I talked about this. And how it affects the male and the female. I have to go back and find that, because that was an interesting study. It opened my mind up. And so back to the beginning, hypersexuality, overactive, sacral, sometimes overactive root system. You will see people who are hypersexualized, always have to have their breast out, always have to have their behind out, always looking for sexual energy to come their way. You know, the man, he does it with his speech. You know what's interesting, and I'm going to leave you at that. It's interesting to see human behavior. I saw a video. I forget where I seen it, but it was a homeless man who had a sign on. Tell me how many people have seen this video. And the sign says he will sing for food. I'm just looking at the male-female dynamic. So 2 women, melanated. It was a melanated man. He had a sign. He would sing for food. And then it was 2 melanated women. They looked like friends, and they walked up to him. And then they were like, oh, you'll sing? And then he was like, yeah, you know, I'll sing for food. Remember, this man is homeless on the street. And I'm watching it, okay? Next thing you know, I forgot what song the man started singing. I forgot what song, so I don't even want to lie on him. So he starts singing this song. And he starts serenading this woman who now has the dollar like in her hand, right? Whatever she was going to give him, she has it like in her hand. And he was like, woo, 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 woo. He doing all of this, right? And I'm seeing her melting. That means because of that feeling and emotion, right? Where the feelings and emotion resides in the sacral, right? The desire resides. The need to be wanted or appreciated or acknowledged by the masculine principle. Let this woman leave all senses that this man was homeless. He's begging you for $1. The fact that he was able to touch you with his voice and make you feel something had her like jello. I was like, and so she was still like, oh, he's singing to me. She was doing all that. And then when he was done, he just took the money out of her hand. That's a part of our connection and the synergy that exists between the male and female that often is exploited. The man knows, if I spit game to shorty, I grew up with 3 brothers, so this is why I'm a little bit rough and tumble. If I spit game to shorty, I can bag her. Why do they know this? Because the power is in his tongue. His ability to touch a space within her that, how did Eve she got game spit to her. This is how she got caught up. Because he began to speak in her ear, hey, such have songs, R&B catalogs for days about, you know, I'm gonna be a better man and, you know, this, that, and the third, and let me take it, and I'll drink your bath water, and all of the promises. And they'd be like, Judge, he promised me. And when you get on the other side, I lied. He lied. So, again, it may present itself, like I said, different in the male and the female. But the fact that we are hypersexual as a society shows a lack of self-control, and so is why consumerism is at an all-time high, and depression is at an all-time high, and divorces is at an all-time high, and the lack of ability to really connect to people is compromised. That was a Soulonimics session. Let me make sure I got everything. I just wrote a little some stuff down here. We'll come back at another time and talk about what you do about that. Soulonimics is still on. There's the book, then there's the course. But the book is available on Amazon. So go ahead and check that out. And if you did get it, feel free to write a review. And with that said, and then we're going to come back at another time and talk more about It Didn't Start With You. Let me see what's the next chapter, y'all. The next chapter is, I think we left off on chapter 3. Yeah, the family mind. I think we left off on 3, so probably 4 is the next one. The core language approach. Yeah, we're going to go into chapter 4, where traumatic experiences are declared, like somebody being sexually exploited, sexually molested, or just exposed to sexuality and curiosity at a young age, you know what I'm saying, and begin experimenting and getting drawn off into places where they're stuck now. They're stuck. There's a way to come back, but you have to acknowledge, hey, you may be stuck in this space. So we'll come back and talk about chapter 4 at another time. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. This is Muna Yisrael. Prayerfully we learn together, grow together, you know, and heal together. So I'm out, y'all. Share the video too. If somebody could benefit from it, share the video. All right. Ooh.